to me in business, right? RevOps as a function within the business, owning the GTM truth really folds into three categories, because there's the narrative within the business of what it is that the sides of the go-to-market team that you and I do, which is, sales, marketing, CS. There's the AI piece, we just talked about Claude Code. And then there's the revenue, the actual dollars and cents at the bottom line. So winning this revenue race, thinking about your strategy, and really making sure that those three boxes are ticked is what we want to talk about today. And I brought a friend who is in the RevOps space. So for the sake of the introduction, I presented here before. I'm Nadia Davis. I'm VP of Marketing at Caliber Mind. We're in the marketing analytics and go-to-market intelligence space. So Anne, I'll kick it over to you. Introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Anne Morton. I have been with Caliber Mind for the last 4 years. Prior to joining Caliber Mind, I was a Salesforce administrator. So I'm sure several of you, if not some of you, have fallen your way through the Salesforce ecosystem at one point or another. It seems to be kind of a trend in RevOps. And prior to that, I was an art teacher. So I have a weird background, but I landed here and I love it. RevOps feels like home. It's a good place to be. I didn't realize we had started earlier when we had started, because I'm a noob here, but today is St. Patrick's Day, and we were talking about my dog Patrick, who has today's his gotcha day. So we got real creative with his naming convention there. So, like a Salesforce field, it's very obvious. Yeah, exactly.
Well, also, like, to kind of beef up this topic for those of you who may not have seen some of the stuff that we started kind of building for this, what we call race to revenue campaign that we're running throughout the first half of the year, because ultimately that's when a lot of businesses are trying to drum up their pipeline, because with the long sales cycles, it just takes an aggressive start early in the year so that your Q3 and Q4 are closing quarters, really. And we released this trilogy. It's not a salesy kind of series of white papers. This is more a reflection on all things that go into really wrapping your mind around the strategy of how your business goes to market. This is not the buy this, skip that. This is not like, the comment go to GTM and you get some kind of a playbook that gives you a series of tactical steps. This is more like, what do you do as a business leader, whether you're a RevOps leader, this one, we kind of titled it with a marketing title, so that the rest of the business not only knows what you do, but also aligns and kind of gets together and achieves the goals as a team, because business clearly is a team sport. There's very little that you can do on your own. So if you want the trilogy, there's a QR code. The first paper is ungated. It's very much themed with a race to revenue, hence the jacket. It's also green, convenient day, right? So you can get it here. If you like the first one, the second and the third one, they do have a gate, but you know that you're getting quality content. So that's my little spiel. But I want to start here. And it's no news, and it's actually really old and feels like sand on your teeth that grinds, that the buyer's journey is not linear. Well, duh, it's not linear. The news here is that recently, one of the stats, and I would love for your take on this, is that it's no longer 60 touch points that it takes for the account to either say hello or become your pipe. It's over 200 points, right? Or 200 touch points. Some have said 400 touch points. And when I see that, I wonder, like, is that John Wanamaker quote? I waste half of my advertising budget. I just don't know which half. Like, what if you're wasting half of those touch points? You don't even know what they are. You're just collecting the touch points as badges of honor. And I don't know if this is the marketing vanity metric or there's any value in that, because you look at buyer's journey all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are so many touch points from all of the different MarTech, right? We have so many systems pushing data into hopefully one system. So we're getting it all there, but digging through it and figuring out what actually matters, 200 seems like a stretch. I don't know. Maybe you would agree with that, Nadia, but I don't know. It's clear as mud, right? The marketing data and figuring out what actually matters is the problem we're always trying to solve. Whether you put a number on that or not, I don't know how fair that feels, because I would argue that it's probably different customer to customer too, and person to person.
But to your point, because there's so much data, like I'm convinced that out of the 200 and whatever that number is, probably 80% of that is noise. You just have to show that, you're working hard and your marketing team is doing things, right? We're generating activity in a lot of cases. If we're unable to really separate church and state and figure out what matters and what is just kind of comes with the territory and you don't even care about it. It's like this residual of all the MarTech systems, right? And when people ask, and in a lot of cases, this is the question that's being presented to RevOps, like, where should we invest? What tools should we get? What matters? Like, it's really hard to answer that question just because we prided ourselves, and probably still do, on the amount of activities that we think engage and activate our audiences, when in a lot of cases that's noise. So I could put a picture of Anne on this slide. I just didn't have a good picture of Anne to replace my cute little guy with, right? But this is the life that all of us live. I mean, in my previous role, I led marketing, revenue marketing and marketing operations. This was a combined effort of all demand gen and marketing operations, right? But our businesses evolve. No one business is the same day to day. People change systems, people change go-to-market motions, they hire new leaders, they decide to segment differently, they bring new product lines, and all that lands in our sales force. And is that the bane of your existence and the endless fields that you're gonna manage?
No, Nadia, I live for it. It is wonderful.
It's job
Yeah, I
security
mean,
for sure.
for sure, right? And marketing has probably the most complicated tech stack, I would argue. You have so many different tools. Alone, just on our small team, we probably have upwards of 8 to 10 tools that are pushing all of that data into Salesforce. So now we're dealing with just mounds and mounds of records and duplicates and fields. That does this actually matter, and how come this field is different than this field, because this enrichment tool said one thing but this enrichment tool said another thing. And before I get too heated, I'll stop there. But there is a lot of confusion and there is a lot of data that we're sifting through all of the time.
Well, I remember you talked about some kind of tool that's out there that can sunset some of the old Salesforce fields that are not being used anymore. So maybe that's your birthday present wish, maybe?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
But
That would be really wonderful.
it's probably the alignment across all the people for them to say yes, that this field can be sunset.
I've just defuncted it in some brackets on the field name. It's fine. Although Salesforce did release something recently that I haven't tried out yet, but that's on my never ending to-do list.
And I feel like part of that also is that there's constant change. And if you're not abreast of this technology, if you're like one step removed from, say, Salesforce adminship and other systems, this noise gets you so confused, even how you communicate the value and communicate the strategy within the business, that there are these scary stats. And I think that's exactly what they are. They're scary, right? Like 70% of marketers cannot calculate ROI. Well, I kind of get that, right? You got all the systems, all the things, some of them that are not measurable. But the other one, and that's somebody who is on your team or who you're trying to align to your sales leadership, right? And your CS and ultimately your finance team. If 7 out of 10 CEOs, and it's a Gartner stat, do not trust their marketing leader, you essentially step into a business being guilty before proven innocent. So ultimately, you're trying to win that trust, and sometimes you do, sometimes you move on, right? And I feel like, we can talk about all of the unfair things that are out there, and marketers love that. Just go on LinkedIn. It's like a therapy session with a couch. Everybody airs out their grievances, right? Or we can actually do something about it. So, this was our tee up to the topic. Like, Ann and I want to share with you guys, like, what you can do and help your go-to-market team people think about it that way. Like, I'm not delusional. I don't think you're going to pick up the banner and just go make this huge change within your org, but you can help people kind of think about things that matter so that finally they see eye to eye, and you, as the hinge between marketing and sales, actually deliver value and actually build alignment. And I know Ann spent multiple hours with me and our head of sales on calls, kind of making sure we are aligned. And that's the framework that we want to share. All right. And tell us what the difference is in terms of how sales sees the world and how marketing sees the world.
Yeah, I mean, sales and finance see the world pretty black and white, right? Typically, when we're reporting for sales, we're just looking at the opportunity, to be frank. And there we're looking at just a handful of fields. And obviously, there was a lot of work put in to get that data to where it is clear. However, it is clear, right? We know it's a number, it's a metric, and they either reached it or they didn't, essentially, at the end of the day. Marketing is like I said, it's as clear as mud. Getting to the data points that actually matter is super tricky. But it's there. We have the data to prove what's working, and we have the tools, hopefully, to get us to the point where we're able to say, um, you know, these touch points are what actually matter. This intent is what actually matters. And this is how we're going to report on this in order to prove that marketing is actually, meeting their number and getting to that final metric, whatever it is that they need to, and isn't just here to support the sales team. It's here to support the business at the end of the day.
And like the hardest thing to articulate that at the end of the day, marketing drives behaviors. We drive engagement. We want all the people out there, we want all of you on this webinar, right, to walk away and remember a brand or remember a story. We want people to feel a certain way where they decide to come back, they choose to pay attention. Like all of these are very intangible outcomes, but the ask is that we convert them to revenue because RevOps communicates revenue. Finance gives marketing money in dollars, right? Your board or investors put money into your company in dollars. And connecting the two worlds and converting one into another, that's what the challenge becomes, because what we're driving through all of the marketing systems is engagement. We're getting the metrics that are engagement metrics and making sure your conversion is correct from engagement to revenue. That's where a lot of questions come up because everybody has their own idea. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, RevOps is stuck kind of bridging the gap and connecting the dots and arguing the case.
Yep.
So one of those wonderful moments where RevOps shines is when marketing goes to answer the homework lesson in front of the business and we show all the things that we did. And before we get to that, I am curious, like if as your company steps into a QBR or is about to go to a QBR, what do you feel like your life looks like? Maybe your tech is all united. Maybe you're ready to go and you can just pull numbers on the fly and they will match all the time. So that's growth engine, right? Dashboards are green, we're scaling, we're ready to go. Maybe you're in that kind of coming right up or just wait a second, I'll go get it stage, where the data is in different places. You have it, you just need a minute to pull it all together and get it all organized. I would probably think a lot of people might be in this stage. Maybe you have to stitch things together before you do anything because everything is manual and Zapier is working overtime. And please don't ask me any questions. I'll just try to do my best. I've seen that too. Option number 5, that funnel finder option, is I spend my time trying to figure out where the missing points or data points live. I need to find things before I report on them. It's kind of a sadder state of things, but sometimes it happens, right? Or maybe you're just trying to clean the duplicates out of your Salesforce, and that's where you are, and you're not ready for any type of reporting. And hopefully somebody else is doing reporting in spreadsheets. So those are the choices. If you guys want to play the game and participate, I will tell you this funny story before we pull up the answers. I was once interviewing for a role, and one of the senior leaders, when I asked, how is your Salesforce? They said, it's squeaky clean. I was like, wow, never heard this one before. I'm curious to see what it looks like. So when I accepted the job offer and I looked at that Salesforce, it was literally squeaky clean because they downloaded a data set from an external source from US Census. So 80,000 accounts, not a joke. Tons of leads and contacts, tons of duplicates. Not a single website appended to any one of those accounts. So it was squeaky clean for a lot of fields. But I've never seen an instance where everything was perfect. So maybe we'll have some people here with that. Let's see the answers. Kamala, do you want to share the answers? All right, coming right up, a lot of people are in that place. So patchwork pilot where you first got to get the things before you can report on them. And what is your take? Because you've seen all stages of maturity.
Yeah, for us specifically, I would say we're coming right up. Sometimes a growth engine. We're in a good spot, but I'm biased.
You're the one doing the reporting.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
That's good. But I feel like, when it comes to a QBR, in a lot of cases, marketing would probably do this. This is my slide from my previous QBRs where I would say we drove this much traffic to the site. We did so many webinars. We drove so many leads. We went to this many events. And I would wait there for somebody to say, man, marketing did a good job. And if you're helping Jean, who is our sales leader, with numbers. Like, what's your take on this slide?
You would say, cool. Now, how does
Bless
this
your heart.
impact the company as a whole? How is this impacting everyone? How is this, tied to our metrics, not just marketing's metrics?
And in
right?
a lot of cases, like when I started leading teams, like what this slide essentially equated to is a very finite universe of performance marketing, like people who have access to systems that could pull those numbers, right? And that was me, I was pulling those numbers. But if I had people who were doing events marketing, none of this means anything to them. If I had people who were doing email marketing, none of this means anything to them. And I found myself always grumpy, and maybe you work with someone, on the marketing side who always feels grumpy, feels like they're the only ones that are pulling the weight because like, I am the one doing all the work because all of these numbers are coming from me. Yeah, because you're the one who has access to systems that give you some kind of output, but this framework does not really help give others any type of North Star. It does not help any of you individual contributors to figure out what do they need to do better so that they could contribute to their kind of lower level metric, right? It does not give any direction to how marketing actually delivers on pipeline or revenue at whole. Like everybody just came back from their SKO or RKO, whatever it is for your company, right? So you have that huge number. And usually you look at that number at the kickoff and like, oh, okay, well, that's for sales. It's good that we're not in sales because I can go to bed and sleep fine at night. But ultimately, like that's what this does. It does not help you bridge the gap and convince your sales side how all of this connects to revenue. So what we're proposing here is a 3-piece framework, and I'll kind of click through the slides. Map, wrap, gap. There's more details in that book in the ebook that I shared with you guys, and we'll put the link in the chat. But ultimately, I know it's a cheesy way of naming it, but we did it so that people could remember. So ultimately, what you want to do, you want to map all of your metrics to things that matter. Like all of those random numbers that we showed, you want to map them to your revenue, and there's a way to do that. We'll show you. Then you want to wrap a story around it. Like, why does it matter? To Anne's point, this is great that you guys did all of that, but why does it matter? And then you figure out where you missed the mark. But it would not be you missing the mark, or when you articulate that to your marketing leader, it would not be the marketing team missing the mark, but rather we have a problem and all of us on the go-to-market team on this side of this problem that we need to solve. Then you have everybody contributing. So what I propose, if you have your North Star number, we have it, you guys have it. Say it's $1 million. We're doing simple math. Say marketing and sales contribute 50-50. In a lot of companies, it's, 80-20, 70-30, but let's say it's 50-50, right? If you convert that into opportunities, say you have your average opportunity size and your 50% of the million for marketing turns into 50 opportunities, say it's 10K per opportunity on average, right? So you know how your team drives those opportunities. You know how many come from demo form fills if you're in SaaS. You know how many come from events on average, right? From email, all the other channels. So out of a sudden, you can go to all of the individual contributors or recommend to your marketing leader to go to all of the individual contributors and say, hey, this is what we're building towards. This is what we're responsible for. And this is your piece of the pie. So you're over events, so you're over content. Let's make sure that you get this many per year, per quarter, per month, right? And people feel invested out of a sudden. They feel like they have a number to hit, and that number is not a crazy, scary big number, but it's actually achievable. And then you can break it down for them as far as like what it means for them to contribute. And I know usually it's the sales team that carries the quota. It's the BDRs that carry the quota. I'm curious about your take on breaking it down for marketing, or the marketing side that always screams that we don't get to participate in important things.
Now you can, as you should, because it's months and months and months sometimes before we see that lead actually pop up. And that's a ton of work that marketing is doing. So we should be able to attribute that to the opportunity. And we should be able to say, it took this amount of touches or this amount of, again, intent data, whatever it is, to get this person to actually raise their hand and fill out a form or whatever it may be. And now we can prove the, ROI on all of our marketing spend and why it's so important.
And out of a sudden, people feel like their job is meaningful. So now that you know this, what should you do about it? Like frameworks are great, but you got to figure out what you want to do about it. So one way to kind of show all of the things that go behind the scenes is to assemble a buyer's journey. And I know I'm showing you a screenshot from Caliber Mind because that's what I have available and it's easy to pull. I do a screenshot and I have the slide ready. You can do it by hand if that's not what you have. It takes them a minute longer. I used to do it by hand. But if somebody flagged this account as marketing qualified and the sales team wants to argue, why is this account qualified? And this is your reality. MQAs, that's what we hand off, marketing qualified accounts, right? Why is this MQA and MQA? What would be your answer? And where would you go to find that answer?
Yeah, well, personally, I would go into Caliber Mind into the buyer journey to see what triggered this account to become an MQA.
Of course you would.
Of course I
Yes,
would,
you
because
should.
we have this data and it's available and it's amazing. I don't know how I ever operated without a tool like this previously, but we have sales and marketing have aligned on what is a marketing qualified account, right? We have these meetings probably once a month to ensure that it's making sense and that things are happening as they should be. And so if we could come into the buyer's journey in Caliber Mind, we can see exactly the steps that qualified this account. Okay, they visited our websites 3 times in 90 days. It was the same person. They engaged with us on G2. They were searching our competitors. They went to this campaign. They downloaded this content. We could see all of this really important intent and all of this engagement that this sometimes one person, sometimes multiple people, sometimes even anonymous people, but it's this account we're able to tell based off of, IDs, cookies, whatever in the background. And so that is a lot of intent. And yeah, that account should qualify. So, and we have the receipts. So here it is. Now go after them, go get them.
And sometimes we would have false positives. And sometimes you would just, somebody would say, you know what, this account does make sense. And you look at the buyer's journey again and you realize that somehow it fell through the cracks because technology is technology, right? But it just makes it argument free or debate free. And it really saves a lot of sanity, I feel like, to the person in the middle, which is, for us, it's Anne, but it's a RevOps person.
Yeah, for sure.
So the other step within this, so we said map, wrap, gap. So the wrap piece is that if you wrap a story around what you see, so here what I'm showing you just to orient you on the slide, like look at this funnel on the bottom of the slide, right? Touches and stage by event. So everybody has a funnel. Here it's engagement funnel, so aware, engaged, MQA, the stage of handoff, right? And then it goes into the sales stages. And what I want to flag to you here, again, it doesn't matter how you accumulate that through a tool, maybe a competitor of Caliber Mind or whatever, by hand, maybe you're a customer of Caliber Mind. Here we have this gray, and this is a real chart. And gray here means email. So the deals that went through this cycle that were won had this much engagement via email to prospects, right? So once people were in the pipe, email was accelerating engagement. Then if I compare the same view for deals that were lost, we don't see gray, so there was no email. There was sales outreach. If you guys can see the green, maybe you cannot read, but the green here is sales outreach, right? The outbound cadences through Apollo or whatever, or Clary. But we also have this massive light blue, and light blue here is no campaign type. So what this tells you in the story that RevOps would tell to the rest of the business, that look at the deals that we win, they on average have so much email engagement that you should not fight with marketing to suppress current opportunities from your email. For you, it could be ads. For you, it could be webinar participation. Like it's unique for every business. I'm kind of showing you, one specific use case. But the concept stays, right? Certain activities are really good to accelerate deals. The other ones, like here, we have this light blue where it's no campaign type. Oh, we got a data issue. Something here is not tracking, is not telling us what campaigns went into this. And we know it's not email because that one is tracking. So here you're solving 2 things. You're telling people that A, it's important to make sure that all campaigns are appended. So that's an internal marketing message within the team, whoever does, different campaign programming within the marketing team. And B, you're telling salespeople, hey, do not pick up your pitchforks and go to fight with marketing that you don't want your current opportunities to be enrolled, say, in email campaigns, because that accelerates that. And that's the story, right? You come to a webinar with a story, and out of a sudden, you're not splitting hair of how many things somebody did or, marketing versus sales credit. You're actually presenting a united front, and people walk out of it thinking, oh, I got my deals that are important to me. I'm going to ask marketing to make sure that we send them emails, we show them ads, whatever that thing is, or we meet them at events, and then people want to contribute to this more. And then we also have something that kind of is more higher level, kind of summary statistics, right? That look at the health of the business and the health of the pipe and the buying cycle in general. And I would love for you to comment on like all these things that people should look at, again, whether assembled by hand or within Salesforce or within Caliber Mind. But those are important indicators of whether or not the revenue numbers will be hit on time.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great one. So we could see we have over 4,000 journeys currently today, and those are people who fall within our funnel. If I'm looking at that current funnel on the bottom left, I could see we have a lot of people in the aware stage, which is great. That means marketing is targeting a lot of accounts, but I do see a pretty hefty number of UCP accounts in that graph, which UCP for us is kind of like our least ideal
Unaccepted.
So yeah, I would probably say, are we segmenting okay here? Let's go check out our tech for marketing there. Let's make sure that our segmenting is looking good, that we're reaching the right people. Wow, I would love to know when this was captured because we're looking good. We have a lot of MQAs and MQLs. We have lots of open opportunities. Everything's looking great for Caliber
It's
Mind.
demo data, Ann. It's demo data.
And then I'm looking at our, velocity graphs at the bottom, and I see some highs and lows. I see some really clear dips and some peaks. And so I would want to dig into that. And this is nice because we've built this in a way that it's easy to dig into and figure out what happened here back in May of 2025. What was going, or February, like in the engaged lead velocity? Why do we dip so abruptly from month to month? What happened? What were we doing in January that was so successful? And then what did we not do in February? Or, looking at the MQA velocity, what did we do in August of 2025 where we got a ton of MQAs? Did we do a data backfill or something? Or did we have an event? Typically that will trigger that. So these reports are really telling what's going on with our sales opportunity velocity. Why are we slowing down? So we could dig into the data, find, is there a process bottleneck, or are there opportunities to repeat things that were successful, so that we can kind of have a more upward trajectory instead of, these highs and lows, which.
And I feel like this is a great example where RevOps is such an important translator of the data. Because if you're looking at it for the first time, like a bunch of you on this webinar, none of this means anything to you. Somebody has to orient you in every chart, whatever that chart may look like, right? And somebody has to tell you, is up good or is down good? We're all so programmed where up is good, up and to the right is one of those cheesy corporate sayings that everybody loves to use and throw around. But if we look at velocity, Ann was calling out certain dates, like these high peaks, the up is actually bad because up means salespeople take more days to take the lead from marketing and engage with it. So here, down is good because that means that they just took the lead on the day that it was assigned and they ran with it. So I feel like that's where that strategic kind of guidance from our revenue operations is so important. And personally, in a lot of cases, I would go to Ann and I would question, hey, why is this the way it is? Because maybe it's true, maybe it's a fluke, maybe it's the inner system connectivity or whatever it is, right? But it's the RevOps person that knows where the keys to the kingdom are so that you can unlock the door and kind of look behind. It's never the consumer of the chart, which is on my side.
That's because we're in the trenches, digging to the top of the kingdom.
And we just visit from time to time just to check on you, make sure that there are signs of life.
You still breathing? Yeah, we're good.
And that's ultimately kind of the takeaway from the first part of this webinar, like the why really matters. There are many reasons as to why things are the way they are. If you know how to ask questions, or if you actually train people on your team to ask questions and to be curious. I saw someone where they said curiosity is a trained trait. I don't know. I kind of tend to be on the other side of it. I don't think it's a trained trait. I think you either have it or you do not, but people can argue with me on that one. But just tell people that it's an option to ask a question to validate something. Maybe they will ask when they don't like what they see, and that's the only case when they will ask, but at least you got them asking.
That's a win.
That's a win. All right, so let's go with poll question number 2. So now we're moving into the second part of it. We talked about taming the algorithm, right? And this is all AI related. So when it comes to AI and your favorite ritual within RevOps, if you could assign it to AI, what you do today, what would it be? What would you want AI to help you with? Cleaning up tons of test records. Anne was the one behind this question. So this is like from her life, and formatting phone numbers and maybe your CRM, right? Trying to sync lead objects between 3 different platforms that don't talk. So syncing issue number 2, mapping maze. Number 3, answering, why is this lead showing up in my view or isn't showing up in my view for the 10th time? So automate the question answering, which are repetitive, the FAQ machine. And the last one, fixing broken VLOOKUPs in a 50 megabyte master file that someone else built. That's the one thing that I always struggle with. I have to ask, what should be on the left and what should be on the right when it's the VLOOKUP? I should know by now. I've built enough of them, and I keep forgetting the order from left to right. Which one is yours, Anne?
The spreadsheet surgeon for sure. All of the above, but definitely.
So it's probably all of the above for a lot of people, but pick the one that's most relevant. Which one would you outsource to AI? We're not going to say offshore because it's onshore.
Yeah, D, I just am not I've never have been, don't ever plan on being a spreadsheet person. And it's not anything against spreadsheet. It literally just makes my eyes cross. I don't know what it is.
A lot of people got data issues. Look at that. Cleaning out testing records or test records.
Yeah, that's the worst.
My fear is always that it's going to take something else. Well, it's cleaning over here. It's going to sweep up over there. And you look at it and it's going to be my experience.
Yeah, you mark the records and now everything's
crystal
gone.
clean. But yeah, so it sounds like the mapping piece or the syncing piece, people figured it out more and maybe answering questions. People probably have patience. They feel like they are still interacting with humans, but data, the data issues and spreadsheets for sure is the thing. All right, so let's move on to, now that we figured out the QBR path, now that we trained the business on how to be curious about what they see and ask questions to boost the conversation, maybe we should go and buy some software, and that's your favorite. Shopping.
Oh, yes.
And you know, like shopping is actually pleasant. Shopping is pleasant because you see what you're buying. With software, I feel like it's playing the clue games. Like you ask a question and they say yes to everything. Of course we do that. Oh, that one too, yes. And they actually mean it. But I feel like the reason why it never fits 100%, a lot of times when it doesn't fit 100%, because the vendor doesn't know what they don't know about your unique go-to-market motion. And everybody's got that unique motion. You either got a workflow running in the background that's special, or you identify your visitors in a special way, or you got custom fields that are formulas and the tool does not read formulas, but the marketer who goes to evaluate that doesn't even know that it's a formula field. What are other horror stories, Anne, come from the vendor evaluation world?
You mean being oversold, underpromised? No, I mean, I feel like it's very common, this shiny object syndrome, right? That everybody has. We want the new, latest and greatest tool. And this is why it's so important and why I insist on being in any tool evaluation, because RevOps typically is the one who will be standing this tool up, right? They're going to be the ones in the tool,
living the life.
In it. Yeah, living the life. And so we know what will work with what. And if we don't, we know who to bring in to ask the right questions, because we work with literally everyone. There's not a single person at Caliber Mind who I have not worked with. And I'm sure that rings true for the majority of RevOps professionals. You work with everyone, you know who knows what. And so we should be in that buying room. We should know what we're up against, and we should be able to tell you, because sometimes there's overlap. Like someone's interested in this tool, but hey, we already have this other tool. I can get you a seat for, $100. Let's not spend another 10 grand on this one. So in the back of our mind too, we're always kind of thinking about consolidation and cost savings, because that is one of our main things that we need to focus on. But also we're thinking about, how is this going to impact me personally? Because now I'm going to have another tool that I have to manage, So there are plenty of horror stories I could share, but I won't. But
I've been the victim of your strong opinions where I say, hey, we should get this. And you're like, no, this one does exactly that. And we have this other one that also overlap with the one that we have.
Yeah, that I've been trying to get rid of for 3 years, but we can't because people are married to the devil. There it was,
So it has become definitely an unpleasant chore. And I feel like in a lot of cases, it's because this shiny thing
Yeah.
that just inundated our lives and started this webinar as an opening question, right? It's just everywhere. And a lot of you, I'm sure, are on LinkedIn and all the talking heads. And I feel like the tide has shifted a little bit. Like people started kind of, getting real about all of this. But a lot of talking heads are putting FUD in you saying that I built 5 agents and they're doing everything for me. Companies took advice, started laying people off. Were the most brilliant thing when it comes to building with AI and being that one person orchestra. Like I actually have two takes on this. One, if you think that a senior person can go ahead and just, you fire everyone, you just have one senior person and give them 5 agents and they go do all those things, right? They can, but they become a tacticianer from a strategic player. And do senior people want to be a tacticianer for life? No. So out of a sudden, you burn out this person. And two, you built all of these things, and maintenance is a very pleasant task. You built all these things, and now you're a product owner. You have to maintain all of these mini products. You have to drive innovation. You have to, do maintenance on them. But tomorrow you'll want to build 10 more. And before you know it, you created technical debt.
Yeah.
And we've never had technical debt at Caliber Mine, haven't we?
Oh, no, we're perfect. Nothing wrong with anything in our data or our technical.
Stop crying. You're not crying right now.
You can't tell.
Yeah. But anyways, all of this is, people create things, create massive technical debt, and it's on you to advise and help people think forward. Like, it's great. You probably will achieve the task today, but what are you going to do with it later? Once you connected everything and this thing needs massive overhaul or the algorithm changes or whatever, right? And it's the black box conversation. Many of you recognize Scott Brinker here, a great friend of Caliber Mine. But that's kind of his line, that AI is a black box in a lot of cases. It's you don't know what drove the numbers, and if you cannot explain the logic behind what drove a number, then you're in a bad place. And I know you had a story that you saw on LinkedIn about wonderful things, people using AI for analytics.
Yeah, it went viral. I'm sure some people have seen it, but this individual at, I don't even know which company, but they had built an app in their CRM with AI, and were using it for reporting for the board, and found out later that, after presenting the data, that it had hallucinated everything and it had made up all of these numbers and all of these metrics. So then they had to backpedal, and they probably looked terrible. This person probably got in big trouble, if not let go, unfortunately. But that's kind of what you're battling with here is, yeah, exactly. Check that ahead of time. But you never know what you're going to get with AI. You really don't. Sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes you have cases like that.
And in a lot of cases, like, people feel exactly that behind closed doors. We're not in a conversation where everybody's doing these wonderful things, right? Like, the numbers come from Scott Brinker's research, state of, I think it was the state of your stack. That's what it is, the state of your stack, right? So 60%, 6 out of 10 report unreliable data. We'll send that data to AI to make it even more unreliable, because that thing is augmenter. Whatever you got, it's going to blow it up to the 100th percent, right? Integrations are a challenge for every other person, platform fatigue where things change so much. And I love co-work. I hate rework, because then you set yourself back and you got to go and start from ground zero when you got to be like 10 miles ahead already. And that story that you shared, Ann, is amazing. It's like that vibe coding that falls apart when, a little bit of scrutiny and pressure is put against it.
Yeah, that poor person. I feel for them. They just had FOMO, I guess.
All right, last poll we want you guys to play. You've been great sport. Data horse. So now that we're feeding data into AI, all of you are going to go and do something with AI after this. What is the worst thing? Duplicates, blank fields. I think I hate duplicates more. AI hallucination, the story that Ann shared. Or maybe rogue admins. No, actually, I take that one. Everybody's an admin. I've been in a company where everybody was an admin. Some of them didn't know, luckily, that they were an admin. Others just went haywire. And yeah, so which is the worst for you? Maybe now, maybe it's something you've seen and now you got PTSD from it. Duplicates, blank fields, hallucination, or rogue adminship. Let's see what you guys have to say on that.
Hallucination is my fear. That's like, it scares me, but duplicates it just hurts my heart a little bit.
Well, you've been scarred for things that automatically create accounts in Salesforce.
Yeah, and I see people agree.
Duplicates for sure, rogue admins, yeah, blank fields. Nobody's afraid of hallucination, so maybe the era of mass hallucination hasn't started, or maybe people have been very vigilant not to
Yeah.
allow that in.
Yeah.
While all of that is true, I feel like, this is the one use case where AI really shines once you connect it to everything within your ecosystem, right? And it's connected in a responsible way. It's not just some MCP server that you gave access to for everything, right? So think more like AI enablement within a current tool that you have. I mean, here clearly we're showing the picture of Caliber Mind because we do have AI functionality that assembles all the data that has already been transformed and unified, but it doesn't have to be that. But what it's really good at is building that buyer's journey. And for me, it has been the bane of my existence. I'll flip a slide forward and then I'll go back. This is a slide that I built by hand. Every single QBR, this was in the GovTech space, right? And I blanketed all of the all of the account names and whatnot. So I had to build this every single time to show to the sales and finance team that gave us money, these are the things that we did, and this is how long it took for an account to close so we can buy more time. Now, what if you could do this, where AI builds that for you and it delivers it in a field in Salesforce, and out of a sudden your RevOps person can actually enable sales with saying, hey, just look at this field, just one place.
It is wonderful.
So the margin of error reduces, right? We'll skip that slide. So that's kind of the sales enablement use case. I feel like the marketing enablement use case is also really good. Again, once you have everything connected, you can actually figure out what channels perform best. And best is a very cloudy word, could be many things, but you can, you can figure out what campaigns have the highest engagement rate, what channels bring the most opportunities created with touches from those channels. Like the sky is the limit, right? But it allows you to really look at your large voluminous marketing data that Anne was talking about. What did you call it? The clean dirt or something like that?
Clear as mud. Yeah,
clear as mud, there you go. And actually boil it down to something that's meaningful, because all of those noisy touch points, the 200 that we mentioned early on, they will be removed and it will focus on something cleaner. And it's not 100%. Like nothing in this world is 100%, I feel like. I mean, they say death and taxes, but people still avoid death and taxes. So even that is not 100%. But it will give you the direction. At least it will allow you to think about the next question and probe further, right? And if your marketing leader comes to you with that, this is something that you can actually export as CSV from some other tool and bring it all together and do your glorious VLOOKUPs. And hopefully it's not your choice on the previous test or poll. And then you will be able to run that within AI. Because again, this is not de-anonymized data. This is data at large. And then the last one, and Anne's commentary on this would be super valuable, democratizing this data. Like we all love the idea of democratization. We're a democracy, right? Everybody has to have access to everything. But you have to democratize it responsibly, based on what people know, based on people's ability to interpret what they see. And what happens when you give data to people that cannot even act on it or read it or consume it? They probably rush to certain actions that they shouldn't take. And I know that you worked with BDRs in a lot of cases, and they probably go haywire if they see something they shouldn't see.
Everything's a fire. Sometimes, things that shouldn't be fires.
Do
difficult
first,
to put out.
Questions second.
Ask for forgiveness later, right? Yeah.
So there are ways that you can actually tame this algorithm to your will. You may not have a story for LinkedIn, but you will have a scalable scenario that you as RevOps, the center of revenue gravity, can actually roll out to the rest of your organization. And I will kind of pause here, the 4 pillars. I mean, you all know this, but I would love to, let Anne kind of touch on this, because this is super important. This is the gas that you put into your engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before you end up like that person who presented hallucinated data to a board, obviously, there are some foundational work you want to have in place before you build any level of AI engine. Make sure, first and foremost, this is always rule number 1, and we know this, your data hygiene should be at least B+ quality. Yeah, in my opinion, it's almost next to impossible to get to A+ quality, especially given the integrations and things that we have pushing data into one place. But data hygiene is incredibly important because we don't want anything hallucinated. You also need to put in some guardrails. We don't want to give the wrong people the keys to the castle. So having clear ownership and a framework and, documentation to let people know what they're seeing and why they're seeing it, right, is super important. Eliminate those silos. This is the age-old tale of how and can we, but you can try to get as much data into the same where you're going to be pulling the data from. If you could get all of it in there, that would be incredible, because now we have access to everything in a really clear, holistic view of what it is. And then the blueprint, or creating the structure. How can we scale it? Is it scalable? Build something that is scalable, that can adapt to the ever-changing environment of AI. Have the clear hierarchies, and make it so that it is evergreen or able to change with your data and with the upgrades to AI and everything that's to come inevitably, right? Because it's never not the same.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, I feel like Salesforce got it figured out, right? You have your permission sets.
Yeah.
You can make sure that certain people see certain things. There's no cross-pollination, and your BDR does not see the pipeline for the top performing AE, right? They have no business seeing that. But I feel like in a lot of marketing tools, and RevOps is very much at the hinge of marketing and sales, like you log in and you have access to everything. Like once you're on the other side of the paywall, everybody who is in that tool can see everything, the entire pipe, revenue by territory. And this is where you really want to kind of ask your vendors, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, questions. Can I guard certain roles to only see their data? If it's a content manager for marketing, they don't need to see the pipeline for every sales rep. If it's a BDR assigned to a territory, give them just access to that territory. And you might have some vendors saying, yeah, we do that exactly. Of course they do. They say yes to everything. But then ask this. If you have this layer of AI that goes across these 4 pillars, right, and does things and pulls answers, can that BDR ask AI a question, or your AI assistant or AI agent, that will go beyond the scope of what they should see? And if the answer is yes, if that AI agent goes across the entire data pulled from Salesforce, then that is a problem, because you just gave people access to things they don't need to know, and they're not trained to keep certain things within the company. They're not trained not to take it elsewhere where they go. Like, you just open yourself to potential InfoSec liabilities. You don't want that, but those are the questions that you want to ask.
Good point.
All right, so takeaway number 2, everything that we talked about. For the business to have the common truth, you have to drive data literacy and data stewardship, where you explain to people what and how, and actually act as a translator and interpreter. People have to know what's behind the numbers and have visibility into how a number got pulled, to avoid rework, because we're here to do co-work. And ultimately keep things practical. There are things that are interesting and things that are useful. The two are not the same. Let's kind of side on the useful side, even if it's less interesting and less exciting, but that's what scales, to Anne's point. And the last takeaway that, we'll kind of finish on is the fact that you can absolutely drive the value narrative within your business when you act not just as a reporting function or number crunching function, but you actually act as a center of excellence for this technology and innovation, enabling the other sides that maybe have more visibility, your sales, your marketing, but you're the one who they go back to consult with on best practices, on AI applications, maybe less cool than what LinkedIn has, but things that scale across the org that you can keep reusing, because your name will be inevitably attached to that as the champion and the pioneer, right? And help people understand what drives outcomes. Help them get to, from point A to point Z, understanding what's in between. In a lot of cases, you think they know it. They don't know it because it's outside of their field. And I think this is all we got. I don't know, Anne, if you have any parting thoughts, but ultimately, you guys are out there making the change, kind of stepping into the future. And today, the first day of the future, right? What's it going to be for you? It's different. But as long as you understand the philosophies and the principles, in my mind, that's the biggest value that you bring to your organization. Anything from your side, Anne?
We're RevOps, right? We are the bridge between everyone, essentially. So just I don't know, keep doing what you're doing. You guys, we're all super important in RevOps. I mean, now I'm just tooting my own horn, but we are, we're here to help these teams kind of guide them and make the right decisions and dig into the data and pull out any bottlenecks or use cases that we can help fix. And so becoming part of the team is the end goal, right?
And I think that's all we got. So Kamala, we will open this up for questions if we have any.
Okay, so first question we have is there a link to the ebook, and is that the QR code that's on the